In May 2001, Random House published James Bamford's book, Body of Secrets, which explained that Operation Northwoods was a secret plan by the U.S. military to stage a terrorist attack in order to justify a war with Cuba. ABC was so impressed that they interviewed the author. Months later, the 9/11 attack occurred. Carol Valentine initially believed Bamford was telling the truth, but soon she was wondering why the mainstream media would expose this secret plan when they lie about 9/11 and other crimes. She also noticed that people were using the Northwoods document to focus blame for 9/11 onto the U.S. military. By March 2002, she asked Mike Rivero, who was and still is promoting the Northwoods document, for some evidence that it was real. However, none of the people who promote this document offer any supporting evidence. The people who dominate the media are supporters of Israel, so they promote only the people who help the Zionist crusade. Therefore, we should consider that the Northwoods document was created in order to shift the blame away from the Zionists and onto the U.S. military. Most of the 9/11 groups are also dominated by Zionist crusaders. The Scholars for 9/11 Truth, for example, appeared to be a group of intelligent professors when it first appeared, but in less than 1 year they have degraded into an obnoxious group that fights over whether nuclear bombs or space weapons brought down the towers. Most of the time, the Zionist crusaders tell us the truth. If you only listen to their truthful statements, you will be impressed and follow them into a goy pen. You must look at everything they say in order to realize that they are deliberately trying to deceive us. For example, Michael Shermer of the Skeptic magazine writes many intelligent articles, but he also defends the official story on 9/11. He is not naive. Rather, he is another Zionist crusader who is deliberately mixing deception with truth. One of the more amusing examples is Dr. Bill Deagle, who gets publicity by Alex Jones, Jeff Rense, the GCN radio network, and other truth seekers. Deagle provides some intelligent information, but you must look at everything he says in order to realize that he is trying to deceive you. In this excerpt, he blames the Vatican for everything.
All roads do lead to Rome. All kings and rulers are subject to the Jesuit general, the Black Pope. Zionism is just an apostate arm of the Babylonian Talmudic Satanism subject to the Vatican. Spiritual dark lords of blood and sexual sacrifice are identical with the IFES, the identified fiendish entities, and they exist in the astral planes and in the physical.
In this excerpt, he explains crop circles.
Everything above the fourth dimension is part of the singularity. And the best way to think of it, think of the four lower dimensions as four strings, okay? And the fifth dimension and above to the 12th is part of what's called a singularity. So this point in the fifth dimension here on this table is literally at the same point on the other side of the galaxy. Okay? Do you see what I mean in the fifth dimension? And so you have to understand the sixth, the seventh, the eighth. And what's going on is those strings are literally sounding on like a musical instrument on the body of the scalar instrument of the higher dimensional planes. So when you see things like crop circles, what you're actually seeing is the energy being burst from the ionosphere coming down toward Earth and carrying hyperspace archetypes and actually displaying them like images on the ground. So you're actually seeing a transmission of higher dimensional intention that's being translated into intelligent shapes when they're burned on the ground. Does that make sense? So when you see images that show positions of the planets or images of things that look otherworldly, it's because they're from other worlds. Right?
In this excerpt, he explains what NASA is really doing.
We've had a parallel space program since 1963. We have been doing parallel launches from Vandenberg Air Force Base here in California and on the East Coast. They do parallel launches and monitors it from Houston. And 80% of all the space projects have been for military purposes, including low Earth orbit satellites, star-based weapons, and, of course, they have an entire city on the moon, which they always blot out, that's doing mining for helium-3, which is used for nuclear fusion, for interstellar travel, and for advanced energy technologies. And of course, these corporations all control the helium-3 because there are 100,000 times more helium-3 on the moon than there is on Earth, because it has a different origin than the planet Earth. Aurora Space Engineers contact on USS Luftwaffe. The Luftwaffe hasn't been gone. Believe it or not, they didn't surrender. The SS did not surrender with the secret treaty of Fort Hunt. And the rat line brought by the senior Jesuit officers and the cardinals and the Pope, they brought them all over here. In fact, they're under the control of them. The Jesuit general. It really is true. Even the largest telescopes in the southern hemisphere that are monitoring the entry of Nibiru are totally under the control of the Vatican. We have a Mars colony, has since 1982, and plans for terraforming 5 different planets and moons in our solar system have already been operationally started. Okay? This is a fact.
Finally, in this excerpt, he tells us that the Nazis were channeling alien spacecraft technology.
What's this? Where did the saucer technology? Well, it was channeled. A lot of this technology, when it was discovered, all of this was transferred to the Skunk Works, to General Dynamics, Lockheed Martin, all these other corporations. The Aurora spacecraft, or the Model Ts now, they got stuff that can go sublight and beyond the speed of light. They got stuff that you can't even imagine. All of this stuff is real. And I know I've talked to the pilots, I talked to engineers that actually work on the Aurora spacecraft.
Once you realize that most of these people are liars, you should be suspicious of everything they tell you. For example, they are still trying to convince us that O.J. Simpson murdered his wife. But why should we believe they are honest about O.J. Simpson when they lie about so many other things?